He was one of the country's best-known pastors, but this Thanksgiving, instead of healing a congregation, Carl Lentz is working on damage control.
Carl Lentz was a prominent pastor at Hillsong Church until he was fired after he admitted to an affair. Now,
look, Carl was Carl. He's a unique character. There's a lot of things I miss about Carl. But having said that, there were leadership issues that I believe included lying, included what I would call narcissistic behavior.
So that guy, Carl Lentz, is maybe making a comeback? The former Hillsong pastor posted on Instagram this picture of his family talking about how they were excited for the next steps. Now, what are those next steps? Well, that got people thinking, is that ministry? Should he be back in ministry? Someone who failed that hard, that publicly, should they be allowed to be in pastoral ministry again? Well, I want to talk about that because I think it speaks to how people view pastors and whether they're just motivational speakers or maybe there's something else that they're supposed to be doing. So let's look over at this post. I think it's important to look at the wording a little bit. There's another post that we're going to look at that I think is like really pointing to it, but he posted this a week ago, 7 days ago exactly. It's been a challenging road, but we are alive. We are at peace, and thanks to the grace of God, we are together. Not sure what the future holds for us, but we do know that we face it as a family. And for that, I am so thankful. I'm realizing, I think I had something on there. My deepest thanks to our friends and family that have shown us such unconditional love and grace when we have desperately needed it. Forever grateful. We are hopeful about what is ahead. And then he thanks the people that took the picture. So what I see here, I think if it was just this, guys, if it was just this, I think that we would be like, just in the deep end, going in the deep end, thinking the worst of something. But it's not just this post. But let's look at it. He does say, we're together. That's good. That's good that he's together with his family. It's a good-looking family photo. But he's talking about, what's coming. What's coming for him and his family. Now, the reason why I said that there is another post I want to show you is because a couple days ago, Julie Royce, who maybe you like her, maybe you don't. It's always, whenever I say her name, there are people who are going to say either of those kind of stances. But she posted this. Apparently, Carl Lentz was at Willow Creek. That's Bill Hybels, former pastor there, today for the Life Surge event. At least he wasn't speaking yet. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this is because he's there. This is a pastor who was there talking about how he saw Carl Lentz, and that's exciting. And, I get it. You see someone that you at least used to respect. It's, you're gonna fanboy out a little bit. That's fine, whatever. But what is this thing? Life Surge is a premier Christian business event where thousands of local business leaders gather to learn from today's leading Christian business speakers. This is a Christian event for pastors and speakers who want to go on and do more speaking. All right, so this is not just if you rolled up at T4G when it was going, you rolled up at T4G. Is that still? Okay. I think I had that all throughout. Let me know in the chat. Apparently I had my audio mixed up. I'm sorry if there was a reverb there. But this isn't just you rolling up at a normal conference and being able to just take in some preaching and be encouraged and meet up with friends. I'm sure that that's part of it. But man, this is someone who is trying to get back in the circuit. This is someone who is trying to get back on platforms. Now, that raises the question more than I think even the idea of him saying, hey, we're excited for what's coming ahead. I think this speaks more to what he's planning. He wants to do more public speaking, and that raises that question of should he be allowed to? Should he be allowed to speak publicly as a Christian and specifically as a pastor? Well, I think from the tone of my voice, you could probably gather what I'm thinking, because often when we're talking about these conversations, I'm always drawn back to the same passage. So forgive me if you've seen this before, but we're talking about someone who was a pastor who failed in significant ways to where whole documentaries, well, maybe not the whole documentary, but documentaries are made about him. There are news channels coming and doing all these interviews because they want to get this story out. This is really bad. Really, really bad how he messed up, right? Well, can someone like that be back in local church ministry? All right. 1 Timothy chapter 3, these are the qualifications for an elder. And this is important because a lot of people, when they're thinking about a pastor, they're not thinking of an elder. They might be thinking of some kind of like high view of church, maybe Presbyterian or Anglican. They would use words like elders. But the word for elder is pastor. Pastors, elders, overseers. According to the New Testament, those are all the same things. So when we're looking at this passage, we need to understand that. Because that person who's on stage, that's Pastor Brian or Pastor Dave, whoever it is, that person should fit into these qualifications. Nobody who is called pastor should be outside of these qualifications. According to Scripture, this saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to be an overseer or a pastor, he desires a noble work. An overseer, therefore, must be above reproach. What does that mean? It means that people aren't making documentaries about you and your failings. That people aren't just going and talking about you all the time and how you messed up this way, how you messed up that way. That people are constantly just, talking about your failures, your character. And let's not separate those two things. Character and failure go hand in hand. All right, so if you fail, it's not just because something happened to you. It's because you decided to do something. So they must be above reproach. The husband of one wife. In the Greek, it's one woman man. So again, there, Carl Lentz would not fit into those qualifications. Self-controlled, sensible, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not an excessive drinker, not a bully, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not greedy. He must manage his own household competently and have his children under control with all dignity. If anyone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of God's church? He must not be a new convert. So there are some people who are saying, well, what if he wasn't saved? I'm not speculating there, but what if he wasn't saved, but then he got saved after he repented of all this different stuff that was going on in his life? Well, that would make him a new convert. So that would also disqualify him. He must not be a new convert, or he might become conceited and incur the same condemnation as the devil. Furthermore, he must have a good reputation among outsiders, a good reputation, so that he does not fall into disgrace and the devil's trap. Like these qualifications, what I want us to understand is that these qualifications matter, and it's not just anybody. It's not just anyone who could just be, a really good speaker. If you're a really good speaker and people enjoy listening to you, that you get to go and become a pastor. So many people have pushed charismatic people into ministry saying, oh, God's going to use you. God's going to want you there speaking when they don't have the character to back it up. That person who is charismatic could be in the secular world doing other things. There are so many different fields that you could use if you're that kind of a person, as Carl Lentz obviously is. He has a speaking gift. He is able to speak in a way that people are able to understand, that kind of lends them to liking him, to enjoying him. He seems like the kind of person that walks into a room and everyone is just drawn to that kind of person. That's not a qualification for being a pastor. It's not that you're charismatic. It's that your character resembles Jesus. It doesn't mean that you're perfect. Being above reproach doesn't mean that you're perfect, but it does mean that you actually have, some stances that make you similar to Jesus. Not that you're just like him, but that you're trying to live a life that is Christian. And when I see stuff like this about this kind of a pastor, like how much does a pastor have to fail before we're like just okay with saying someone is disqualified? Like, what's the line? If Carl Lentz is able to come back into ministry and just be in ministry and say that he's qualified to be in ministry, then why do the qualifications even exist? I don't know. Because we're just kind of making arbitrary rules about who should be a pastor and who shouldn't be a pastor, and how long they should be out of ministry, and how long should you deal with cancel culture and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, is it murder? Is it murder that's the line? Is it assault of different people groups, maybe younger, that we're like, okay, well, that's the line? I think that the line should come a lot further before any of those disastrous, horrible things. Like, pastors should be above reproach. I don't believe that Carl Lentz is above reproach. Now, that's me. That's my opinion. But I am going to say that I think Scripture is actually pretty clear. And I will also just point out one other one. James 3, verse 1. Not many should become teachers, my brothers, because you know that we will receive a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is mature, able also to control the whole body. And then he starts talking about the tongue. But there's a reason why pastors need to be qualified. Because when you get up and you exercise that spiritual authority over a church, you are representing Jesus. You should look like Jesus. You should be someone that your people will follow. The Bible talks about a pastor being just that, a pastor, a shepherd. That's what the word means. And if you are constantly giving into the wolves, whether that's false teaching or even the wolves within yourself of your own flesh, I don't think you're fit to take care of the sheep. Now, you could be a sheep, and Carl Lentz should be in a church. And he should be able to provide for his family. There was also in this tweet here, I thought it was interesting. Wendy Alsop, who has a great book about gospel-centered women's ministry. She's a great Twitter follow as well. But she tweeted, a lot of these men literally do not know how to exist outside of a platform. They don't know how to live a normal, humble life, and they have no skill set to support their family at the level they were used to. Saw this a ton at Mars Hill, and she was there. I think that's really important in this conversation too. Like when we push people into ministry who maybe should not be in ministry, and I think if it's able to be said about anyone, I think we could look at Carl Lentz and say that guy shouldn't have been in ministry. I think that's a safe thing to say. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm going to get killed in the comments for saying this, but I think it's okay to say that guy should not have been a pastor. But when we push people because they're charismatic, because they can teach, because they light up the room when they walk in, we're kind of stealing from them too, because stuff like this happens and then they're left with, what do I do? So I understand that. So he can go and he can make a living and he can write books if he wants to in the secular world. But I don't think that he should be involved in local church ministry. I don't believe that he should be writing books that pastors are using and passing it around to their congregations. Yes, there is this thing called redemption. That's true. But redemption can also look like just sitting at your church, listening to your pastor and being faithful with your family. That's redemption too, and we shouldn't belittle that because that person isn't on a stage. Now, that's what I think. Let me know in the comments what you think. In about 30 seconds, I'm going to be over on a stream that should be redirected, although I think I might have missed the button. I'm still learning some of this YouTube stuff, so you might have to go to the just my homepage and then come over to the stream. In about 30 seconds, I'll be doing an the afterlive about this, or really anything you want to talk about for a little bit. So catch me over there. If you haven't already, hit that like button. And you know what? Maybe you like this kind of content. Think about subscribing to the channel. That makes a big difference for all my analytics and all that YouTube stuff that you're always hearing people talk about. Anyways, I will see you over in the afterlife.